Can you give us an example of a product that you've chosen and explicitly highlight, why you've chosen that form, why in that dose, why in combination with the other nutrients in that formula? So take your pick.
Okay, I can only do one.
Yeah, one.
Okay. Well, I'd like to talk, I think one of the really interesting ones is coquinone.
Yeah.
Right? I showed some bioavailability studies that we did early on when we put coquinone together. And we use ubiquinone, which is the active ingredient, the antioxidant. It's a natural material. So we found that when you formulate that product in what's called a hydrosoluble formulation, which means you use some oils and some natural emulsifiers to get that all mixed together, that when you swallow that, you form these mixed micelles within your stomach and in your intestines, and the bioavailability goes up, well, probably about 8-fold or so over a standard powder. That was our original formulation for coquinone that we developed probably about 15 years ago. Now, having known and having done that clinical study, when we saw a new material that came out, I think about 3 or 4 years ago, called Ubiquinol. Right? This was all of a sudden the rage. Everybody was saying, oh, it's so much better than ubiquinone, this is the right form to take. Well, I took a look at the research papers that they were basing this on. And what they did was actually, although not a lie, was quite misleading. They took ubiquinol, which is actually the reduced form of ubiquinone. They put it into a hydrosoluble formulation, and they measured it against powdered ubiquinone.
Right.
And they got, interestingly, about 8 times better absorption of the ubiquinol form. Just about the same thing that we had gotten when we compared a hydrosoluble form of ubiquinone with the powder. So we, of course, contacted the manufacturer and asked them about this, and they had all kinds of excuses. We said, well, have you tested them head to head? Same formulation. And of course, if they did, they didn't want to admit it, so we had to do that. So one of those studies I showed you was a comparison of ubiquinone and ubiquinol with the same formulation. Put it into an oil with the emulsifiers, give it to people, and you know what happens? You get the exact same bioavailability. And not only that, but it doesn't matter whether you take ubiquinone or ubiquinol. Once it gets into your body, it reaches an equilibrium, and you form the same amount of ubiquinone and ubiquinol in your blood. That really depends on your redox state, not what material you take. The ubiquinol costs about 3 times as much as ubiquinone. So why would you take a much more expensive ingredient to get the same end result? So when we formulated our newer coquinone products, our Coquinone 100, we used the Ubiquinone product, the one that's a little bit less expensive. We put it in the right formulation. It's very bioavailable, and it's a much more efficient way of doing it.
I guess that's where testing is just invaluable.
That's why testing and knowing what the clinical literature is and being able to take a look at some of the sleight of hand that people are using to prove that their products are better.
And on the topic of form,